Hold on. Did Cardi B really just threaten to drop a nuke on somebody's whole career? Belcalis just hopped on X Spaces and went full wartime general on this girl. We're talking cheating accusations flipped backwards, fake Instagram exposures, and a diss track she says is already sitting in the vault waiting. And BIA? BIA really thought poking that bear 2 years after the fact was gonna age well. Real quick before we get deep in these receipts, if you rock with raw, unfiltered hip-hop drama, and you want the full breakdown nobody else is giving you, tap that like button and lock in with Melanin Scope Media. We investigate. We expose. We don't play. Let's get into it. Belcalis Almanza, Cardi B herself, jumped on X Spaces on August 14th, 2026, and went absolutely scorched earth on Bianca Landreau, better known to the world as BIA, after BIA doubled down in her X mentions saying every single bar on her old Cardi diss was all true. And I need y'all to understand the setup here, because the setup is half the story. The whole thing lit up while BIA was on a stream apologizing to Doja Cat for past shots. Read that again. She was mid-apology, mid-repentance, hands folded, voice soft, doing the whole I've grown, I've matured, I take accountability routine, and a fan slid into the chat and asked her about the Cardi record. And BIA, with the whole internet watching her practice humility in real time, really looked into that camera and said she stands on it. Every word. All true. Brew. That's the move of somebody who forgot who Cardi is. That's the move of somebody who forgot which app they were on, which year it was, and which woman they were talking about. Because here's what nobody in that chat understood in that moment. You are not just standing on a 2-year-old diss. You are poking a woman who has built an entire second career on responding to disrespect with compound interest. This is the same Cardi who turned a shoe-throwing incident at New York Fashion Week into a cultural timestamp. The same Cardi who has never, and I mean never, let a name drop slide without an itemized response. And BIA didn't just name drop. She recertified the drop. She put a fresh stamp on old paperwork and handed it back to the court. Now let's pull up the actual receipts, because Cardi didn't come with vibes. She didn't come with subliminals. She didn't come with a playlist of songs that might be about you. Cardi came with everything: dates, names, quotes, allegations, and a threat wrapped in a World War II reference that honestly deserves its own college course. Sit down. Get comfortable. Because this Spaces session is about to be dissected line by line. And by the end of this, you're gonna understand why August 14th, 2026 might go down as the day BIA's career got put on a countdown timer. Alright, let's start with the words that broke the internet. On that X Spaces on August 14th, 2026, Cardi opened the vault on BIA and did not take a single breath. No warm-up. No let me gather my thoughts. She walked in swinging. She said, and I'm quoting this straight, BTCH, you're a fking weirdo. BTCH, you wanna have beef with me so bad. You need to have beef with God. Whatever God you worship, BTCH, you need to have beef with him. Ain't my fault you ain't never fking P. Asterisk, when I heard this part, I had to pause my phone, put it face down on the table, and take an actual walk around my room. Bro said take it up with God. Not take it up with my label. Not take it up with my lawyers. God. Whatever God you worship. She even left the denomination open. That's how thorough the disrespect was. That's not a clapback. That's a referral. That's Cardi looking at BIA's entire existence and saying, your complaint department is upstairs. That's the dumbest position BIA could have possibly put herself in. Because how do you respond to that? What do you say back to have beef with God? There is no bar for that. There's no 16 that answers divine intervention. Nah, you don't wake up on a random Thursday and pick a fight with somebody who's about to tell you the creator himself don't like you either. Then Cardi kept going. And this is the line that had Twitter losing it. I don't want to smell like you cause everybody say your breath stink. I don't want to be nothing like you. Yo. When I read that back to myself, I was like, nah, this is personal now. That ain't a bar. That's a background check. That's not rap beef insults. That's somebody repeating what the room says when you leave it. And notice the construction. Everybody say. Cardi didn't even take personal ownership of the insult. She outsourced it. She cited sources. She basically said, this ain't even my opinion. This is a community review. BIA thought she was gonna float in on a stream apology, sprinkle a little all true on a 2-year-old record, and get away clean. And Belcalis said absolutely not. We are going past the music, past the industry, all the way down to the DNA level, hygiene level, breath level. That's where BIA lost the plot for real, because you can't come back from a breath joke. That follows you. That's on your Wikipedia in spirit forever. And Cardi didn't stop. She addressed the old cheating claim from BIA's 2024 record, Sue Meee, head on, no dodging, no I don't address rumors. She flat out denied it. According to Complex and Billboard's write-ups of the space, Cardi said she never flirted, never kissed, never DM'd another man in her 7-year marriage, and she said it while invoking her kids. That's when you know it wasn't performance. You don't drag your children into a lie you're telling a million strangers. That's not how mothers move. And then, she flipped the whole table. She said Offset was actually messing with somebody in BIA's own circle, and that BIA knew about it the whole time. Bro said what? I had to run that back twice. Because think about what that means structurally. The entire 2024 diss was built on a cheating accusation aimed at Cardi's marriage. And Cardi just stood up and said the person throwing that stone was living in a glass house that SHE had the address to. When somebody flips a cheating allegation onto you and names your inner circle in the same breath, that's not a response. That's an indictment. That's the dumbest flex BIA could have ever tried to hold onto, and Cardi just snapped it in half on live audio. Then Cardi dropped the Finsta bomb. She alleged BIA was running a fake Instagram account, a finina, as Cardi called it, planting rumors inside Offset circle, feeding narratives, moving in the shadows like a one-woman disinformation agency. That's straight out of a mob movie, brew. That's not rap beef behavior, that's intelligence agency behavior. And when I heard this, I was like, this ain't rap beef no more. This is a full-blown investigation with exhibits. Because if that allegation is even half true, it means the last 2 years of organic rumors around Cardi's marriage might have had an author. Somebody typing in the dark. And BIA really thought a burner would save her? In 2026? When Stan Twitter can identify a Finsta from a typing pattern, a follow order, and one badly cropped repost. Nah brew. The internet screenshots everything. The internet has folders. The internet has spreadsheets. There are 17-year-olds with Reddit accounts who do open source intelligence work that would impress the FBI, and they were all listening to that space. And then, the Nuke line. The one everybody's been clipping, looping, and captioning. Cardi said, when it comes to this SHT, BTCH, I'm Churchill. BTCH. That nuke will be dropped for real. Asterisk Churchill. We went from rap beef to World War II in one sentence. When I heard that, I had to rewind it 3 times just to make sure my ears weren't lying to me. Because let's be clear about what she just announced. She's not saying I might respond. She's not saying we'll see. She's saying the song is done, recorded, mixed, sitting in the vault with a release date circled in red. Ready. BIA said one throwaway line on X, all true, 2 words, probably took 4 seconds to type, and Cardi basically declared Hiroshima in response. The proportionality is insane, and that's exactly the point. Cardi wants you to know the response will not be proportional. That's deterrence doctrine, brew. That's mutually assured destruction with a beat on it. That's when I said, yeah, this is the dumbest position anybody in rap could possibly be in right now, waiting on a bomb you can't see, from a woman who just told you it's already built. And BIA's response to all of this? To the God referral, the breath line, the flipped allegation, the Finsta accusation, the World War II imagery. One line, all caps, sent to a fan account, not even posted on her own page, least never would I ever. Complex confirmed she was clapping back at the specific rumor that SHE was the one who slept with Offset, not that her friend did. Bro. All caps and 5 SS. Count them. LIESSSSS. When I saw that reply, I was like, that's a woman who knows she just walked into a wood chipper. Because peep what she chose to deny. Out of everything Cardi said, the group chat plotting, the fake Instagram, the knowing about it the whole time, BIA picked the ONE rumor, the most inflammatory one, and sprinted to deny just that. That's triage. That's not confidence. That's damage control disguised as denial. That's somebody patching the biggest hole in the boat, while the other 17 holes take on water. Alright, now that we got the quotes on the table, let's connect the dots, because the dots are where this story goes from funny to frightening. Here's the timeline nobody's laying out properly, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. That X Spaces, it didn't come out of nowhere. It dropped right after BIA did that stream where she was apologizing to Doja Cat for past shade, a whole humility exercise, a whole reputation repair tour, and mid-apology, chat pulled up the Cardi diss from 2024. Now watch the fork in the road, because this is the exact second everything went left. BIA had a choice. Keep scrolling. Say that was a different time. I've grown. And protect the redemption arc she was literally in the middle of performing. Or double down. She doubled down. In the middle of apologizing to one woman for being reckless, she chose to be reckless at another woman. 48 hours later, Cardi's on Spaces threatening nukes. That's terrible timing. Brew. That's historically bad timing. You cannot be apologizing to one artist and redeclaring war on another one in the same week. That's a move of somebody who doesn't have real advisors in the room, no publicist, no manager, no friend with sense, because anybody with a functioning risk assessment bone in their body would have said, sis, not today, not on this stream, not during the apology. Now zoom out further, because the roots of this thing go deeper than August. That old diss? Sue Meee, dropped in 2024 as a response after Cardi's wannabe remix, verse rubbed BIA the wrong way. Cardi hopped on the Glorilla and Megan Thee Stallion record. Some bars landed a little too close to BIA's address, and BIA responded with a full diss track carrying a cheating allegation about Cardi's marriage. Then Cardi hit back on her 2025 album, Am I the Drama? With Pretty and Petty. Forbes broke down the whole timeline on that, step by step, verse by verse. So this isn't a fresh beef. This is a 2-year-old wound that had scabbed over, and BIA just poured hot sauce in it for absolutely no reason. Nobody asked. There was no poll. The culture had moved on to 12 other storylines, and BIA walked back into the courtroom to appeal a case she'd already lost. Any smart person would have taken the L in silence and let Sue Meee fade into mixtape history. BIA said, hold my apology tour. Now here's the part that's actually spicy, the industry angle that changes how you read everything. Offset himself, back in April 2025, according to iHeart's Real 105.1 coverage, seemingly acknowledged BIA's original cheating claim on social media. Sit with that. The ex-husband, the man at the center of a whole allegation, was out here feeding the narrative from the outside, co-signing smoke against his own ex while the divorce machinery was grinding. Which means when Cardi says BIA was in a group chat plotting with people close to Offset, that's not a wild reach thrown out in a rant. That's a woman who's been watching the chessboard for 2 years, logging every move, screenshotting every cosign, waiting for the right moment to lay it all out at once. So BIA really thought nobody would connect these dots. She thought the April 2025 cosign was invisible. BIA underestimated how many receipts Cardi's been collecting quietly, and quiet collectors are the most dangerous people in hip-hop because they don't argue with you in real time. They just file everything away and wait for you to hand them a microphone moment. BIA handed her one on a silver platter. And that claim about Offset being involved with somebody in BIA's own circle? That reframes the entire 2024 diss retroactively, and that's the genius of it. If Cardi's version holds up, it means BIA wasn't reporting news on Sue Meee. She was covering for somebody. She was pointing a spotlight at Cardi's marriage to keep the light off her own camp. That's a whole different game. That's not a diss track anymore. That's misdirection. And that's when you know BIA doesn't have real advisors, because a real team would have told her back in 2024, do not build a record on a cheating claim when there's a live rumor involving your own circle. Glass houses, sis. And a real team would have told her in August 2026, do not reignite this, you don't want the receipts flying back. She reignited it anyway. The receipts flew back. Everybody saw it. And peep the platform choice, because that's strategy too. Cardi picked X Spaces, not Instagram Live where she's most comfortable, not a song, not a podcast sit-down, not a carefully lit YouTube explanation video. Spaces is unedited, raw, voice only, and viral in real time. No makeup, no lighting, No edits. No takesies backses. Just a woman and her diaphragm and a million listeners. Billboard clocked it. Over 1 million people were tuned in within hours. That's not an accident. That's a venue selection. That's a woman who knew exactly how to make her word travel without a label PR team touching it, without a single media filter softening it, straight from her mouth to the culture's A. Now compare the arsenals. BIA picked a fan reply, a comment, in someone else's mentions, all caps. Cardi picked a stadium. One of them is playing chess. The other one is playing checkers and doesn't even realize the board is on fire. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out. Nobody's talking about the Churchill reference, and that bothers me, because I think it's the most important word in the entire space. Everybody's laughing at the nuke line, everybody's memeing it, but zoom in on the actual word. Churchill. Winston Churchill was a British Prime Minister during World War II, the guy who outlasted an enemy that everyone thought was unstoppable. And what's Churchill famous for? Strategically? Not swinging first. Not panicking. Absorbing. Enduring. Waiting for exactly the right moment, then unleashing overwhelming force. That reference ain't random, brew. Cardi's telling you her whole strategy in one name. She's not gonna respond quick. She's not gonna feed the weekly news cycle. She's gonna wait, absorb the hits, let BIA get comfortable, let the internet get bored, and then drop the bomb when it does the most damage. That's psychological warfare disguised as a rant. That's a woman announcing a doctrine. And BIA didn't catch it. She heard the joke and missed the war plan. That's embarrassing, brew. That's like your opponent reading their playbook out loud at the line of scrimmage and you still don't adjust. Zoom into the nuke word itself, because word choice is evidence. Cardi didn't say I got a diss. She didn't say I got heat. She didn't say I got something for her. She said nuke. In rap vocabulary, a nuke isn't just a diss, it's a career-ending record. It's the difference between a jab and an execution. It's what Kendrick dropped on Drake in 2024 with Not Like Us, a record so final it didn't just win the beef, it performed at the Super Bowl while the other guy was filing lawsuits. That's the tier of weapon Cardi just invoked. She picked that word on purpose, in front of 1 million people, knowing every hip-hop head listening would clock the reference. She's signaling that whatever she has in the vault isn't a shot, it's a burial. It's not meant to win an argument, it's meant to end a conversation permanently. If BIA had half a strategist in her ear, they would have heard that word and immediately said, "Sis, we need to release a statement of retreat. We need to de-escalate. We need to be somewhere quiet for 6 months." Instead, least never would I ever. You are bringing a caps lock key to a nuclear standoff. Peep the phrase finina too, because that one's a sleeper. That's Puerto Rican slang for a fake Instagram account. Cardi didn't say burner account. She didn't say finster even. She used a term from her culture, her community. The kind of word that lands harder in the neighborhoods that stream her music. The kind of word that tells her base, I'm still one of you, and I'm telling you street-level secrets. That's a subtle flex most people scrolled right past. She's speaking to her base while accusing BIA of hiding in the shadows. And BIA, who's built her whole career on that industry-cool, fashion week, sleek aesthetic, got outmaneuvered in her own language department. Cardi's doing cultural code switching mid-attack, and BIA's responding in keyboard smash. That's a problem with BIA. She doesn't read between the lines. She hears words. She doesn't hear strategy. Now zoom into BIA's LIESSSSSS reply one more time, forensically. 5SS. Read that with your eyes. Say it out loud. That's not the response of somebody with proof in the tuck. That's a response of somebody typing fast, hands shaking slightly, trying to smash the denial button before the internet finishes building the courtroom. Complex noted the specific misinformation Cardi's reply spawned, that BIA herself slept with Offset, and BIA had to jump on it within hours. That fast response energy? That's guilt-adjacent behavior. Now let me be careful and fair here. I'm not saying she's guilty of the rumor she denied. The denial might be 100% true. What I'm saying is you don't type 5SS when you're calm. Calm people issue statements. Calm people say that's false and I'm not entertaining it. Panic people stretch their SS. And the speed tells you everything about which rumor actually scared her, not the group chat allegation, not the Finsta allegation, not the you knew the whole time allegation. The Offset one. She left 3 fires burning and ran to put out the 4th. Ask yourself why that one. And here's the part that should genuinely scare anybody rooting for BIA. She really didn't catch that Cardi teed this whole thing up. Look at the structure of the space like a screenwriter. Cardi denies cheating first, establishes her own credibility. Then she invokes her kids, builds the sympathy shield. Then she flips the narrative onto BIA's circle, transfers the suspicion. Then she drops the Finsta accusation, introduces the villain arc then, and only then, she teases the nuke, the cliffhanger, the reason you tune in next week. That's not a rant. That's a 5-act play with rising action and a closing hook. Each layer sets up the next. That's pacing. That's story structure. If BIA had a team paying attention, they'd have realized within the first 10 minutes that Cardi was reading from a chessboard while BIA was still trying to find her queen. One of these women came to the microphone with a narrative architecture. The other came with a fan reply. She's 10 steps ahead, and the terrifying part for BIA is that Cardi wants her to know it. Now let's see how the media covered this, because the framing game is its own battlefield. Billboard framed it as a reignited feud. Clean, neutral, corporate, air-conditioned. They positioned Cardi's spaces as a rant and let the quotes carry the weight without picking a side. No editorial fingerprints on anything. Yahoo essentially repackaged Billboard spin, running with the same doubles-down framing on BIA's end. Syndication doing what syndication does. Both outlets played referee. That's fine for the record books. That's their job. But that framing quietly lets BIA slide. And here's why. A rant sounds like emotional overflow. A rant is what happens when somebody loses control. What actually happened on that space was not a loss of control. It was a calculated public dismantling with a beginning, a middle, and a cliffhanger ending. Calling it a rant is like calling a surgical strike some commotion. The language downgrades the strategy, and every downgrade is a little gift to the person getting dismantled. Complex went a different route entirely, and it's worth studying. They zeroed in on the misinformation angle. That story where the internet warped Cardi's words into a rumor about BIA sleeping with Offset. Complex framed BIA as a clarifier, positioning a denial as the responsible correction of the record, almost a public service announcement. That's a soft cover, brew. That framing makes BIA look like the calm, reasonable one in the room, the victim of internet telephone, instead of what the timeline actually shows, a woman who reignited a 2-year-old beef on someone else's apology stream and then got caught by the ricochet. Complex gave her the setting the record straight treatment, when the record she set straight was a fire SHE lit. Meanwhile, the source went harder. The headline led with Offset cheating rumors and put Cardi's allegation about BIA's friend front and center. No cushion, no euphemism. That's the framing that actually reflects what happened in that space. The allegation about the circle was the story. Everything else was decoration. Then there's Forbes, who did something totally different. They published a full explainer back in September 2025 laying out the whole 2-year war from Wannabe Remix through Am I the Drama. No memes, no jokes, just chronology and receipts. Forbes put the timeline on paper, without emotion, and let readers draw the conclusion themselves. And the conclusion any honest reader draws from that piece is devastating for BIA. Anybody who actually read it already knew she had no business reopening this in August 2026. The paper trail said don't do it. The scoreboard said don't do it. She did it anyway. And Revolt TV took it a step further. They flagged the defamation angle, noting Cardi has previously threatened legal action over false cheating claims, and that Cardi has a documented history of actually pursuing the legal route when narratives about her marriage cross certain lines. So this isn't just rap beef anymore. There's a legal shadow behind it. There's a universe where Sue Mee stops being a song title and starts being a case number, and BIA just stood up in August 2026 and reaffirmed the claim out loud. In writing. On a recorded stream. Think about that. Now, some BIA supporters online saying Cardi overreacted. They say she gave BIA free promo. They say the whole space was cringe, that a woman of Cardi's stature shouldn't even acknowledge a smaller artist, that responding is the loss. Nah brew, that argument doesn't hold up under even 5 seconds of scrutiny. Let's look at the scoreboard. Cardi trended for 18 hours. BIA trended for 4. Cardi's clip hit 1 million plays. BIA's response was a 5S denial in somebody else's mentions. If this was free promo, it was promo for Cardi's next album cycle, not BIA's career. Because promo only helps you if people are checking for your product. And after that space, people weren't checking for BIA's music. They were checking for BIA's funeral arrangements. That's not promo. That's a memorial service with good attendance. And the "she's too big to respond" crowd needs to study Cardi's entire career. She responds to everything. She always has. It's literally part of the brand. And it has cost her nothing. It prints engagement every single time. BIA supporters are reaching trying to defend this. And I get it. Loyalty is loyalty. But if you still think BIA has a point after all these receipts, you're just biased. And the media trying to spin it fair and balanced don't change the underlying math. One person came with names, dates, a timeline, flipped allegations, a finster accusation, and a track in the vault. The other came with 5 SS. But here's what nobody is saying. Something about this whole thing feels OFF, and I don't think y'all are catching it. I sat with this space for 2 days, ran the clips back, mapped the timeline, and I keep landing on the same conclusion. This isn't even really about BIA anymore. This is about Offset. Real talk. Pull up every accusation flying in that spaces and trace each one back to its source. The 2024 diss? About Offset. The cheating allegation? About Offset. The friend Cardi named in BIA's circle? Connected to Offset. Offset himself seemingly co-signing BIA's story on socials back in April 2025? That's the thread. That's the spine of the whole skeleton. Every road in this 2-year war runs through one man, and he hasn't said a word this entire month. And here's what mainstream ain't gonna tell you, because it requires holding 2 thoughts at once. Cardi isn't fighting BIA. Cardi is using BIA to publicly close a chapter on Offset that the divorce papers can't touch. Legal documents can divide assets. They can split custody schedules. What they cannot do is kill a narrative. Only a public execution can kill a narrative, and that's what that space was. Think about it from her position for 1 second. Cardi's in the middle of a divorce. She's got a new album cycle breathing. She's got a new relationship rumor mill spinning. The absolute last thing she needs floating around her name during a divorce settlement, where lawyers are literally billing by the hour to characterize each party's conduct, is a 2-year-old cheating narrative with her name in the headline. That narrative is expensive. That narrative has a price tag. And BIA, bless her heart, truly, walked right into being the sacrificial lamb. She recertified the narrative at the exact moment Cardi most needed it publicly demolished. It's almost too perfect. When Cardi said she wants Offset to send her that 50 ball for the kid's birthday party, that ain't a random shot thrown in a rant. That's a woman telling y'all where the real war is. That's a public invoice. BIA is just the wall she's bouncing the message off of. The message is addressed to a man in Atlanta, and BIA's name is just on the envelope. BIA is a prop in a bigger play. And the saddest part? She doesn't even know it. She thinks she's the main character of this beef. She's the messenger being shot, so the recipient reads the letter. Now here's the industry politics piece nobody wants to say out loud, but the numbers say it for us. BIA has been trying to break through for years. She had whole lot of money, a genuine moment, a platinum plaque, a TikTok anthem, real cultural penetration. She had the remix moment with Nicki. She had cosigns stacked on cosigns. And then, the streams plateaued. The album cycles got quiet. The rollouts came and went without leaving dents. Her name only reliably trends when she's beefing with somebody bigger, and I need you to hear what that actually means. That's not a career, that's a life support strategy. When your engagement graph only spikes during conflict, you don't have fans, you have spectators. Every time BIA needs relevance, she reaches for a bigger name's neck, and the industry lets her, because controversy sells even when the music doesn't, because blogs need posts and playlists need drama and everybody eats except the artist who becomes the meal. BIA isn't functioning as a rapper right now. She's a headline generator with a MIC. That's a harsh truth, but the numbers don't lie, and I didn't write the numbers. And here's the cultural piece that ties it all together. Hip-hop right now is going through a woman versus woman fatigue cycle, and it's real. Fans are tired. Tired of manufactured beefs, tired of Instagram shade, Tired of spaces rants that don't lead to actual music. Tired of rollouts disguised as conflicts. The culture has watched this movie too many times in the last 5 years, and they can recite the ending. Cardi understood this. That's why she said Nuke instead of just arguing back. She's telling the culture, I'm not doing the Instagram live back and forth. I'm not doing quote tweet tennis for 6 weeks. I'm doing the song. One song, one time, permanent. That's the move that separates artists from personalities. Artists end arguments with records that chart. Personalities end arguments with comments that disappear. BIA responded with a tweet-adjacent reply. Cardi responded with a promise of a record. One of those moves ages well. The other one gets screenshot and clowned every anniversary. The culture is done with people who yap and never drop. Done. And BIA is on the losing side of that shift and doesn't see it yet. She's fighting yesterday's war with yesterday's weapons on a battlefield that moved. Now peep this psychological angle. Because it's the coldest one. Cardi invoking her kids in that space. That wasn't just emotion leaking out. That was legal shielding and public sympathy fused into a single move. By tying the cheating denial to her children, Cardi made it almost impossible for BIA to keep pushing that narrative without looking like she's targeting a mother, without every blog headline becoming BIA continues attack on Cardi's family. She child-proofed her flank. That's chess, brew. That's what a seasoned PR mind looks like when nobody's writing a script for her, when it's just instinct sharpened by a decade of being the internet's main character. Cardi doesn't need a team. She is the team. She's the strategist, the talent, and the cleanup crew simultaneously. Meanwhile, BIA is playing checkers on a chessboard and doesn't even own her own pieces. Her pieces are being moved by an algorithm that rewards conflict in an industry that rewards whoever trends longest. And neither of those forces care whether she survives the month. The scary part? The genuinely scary part? Cardi hasn't even dropped the nuke yet. Everything you just watched, the spaces, the quotes, the God referral, the breath line, the Finsta accusation, the flip narrative, the World War II cosign, that was the warm-up. That was Cardi tapping the microphone. That was the sound check. If the actual record drops, BIA doesn't have a counter. She doesn't have the streams to survive the news cycle. She doesn't have the pen to win the response battle. She doesn't have the machine to match the rollout, and if even half of Cardi's allegations are documented, she doesn't have the receipts to win the courtroom of public opinion either. And Belcalis is standing on business with 1 million people in the front row. And that's the truth they won't tell you. Nah, this is about to get ugly. Path 1. The collapse. Watch what happens if Cardi never drops the nuke at all. Nobody's modeling this scenario, and it's actually the scariest one for BIA. And here's why. Silence from Belcalis after that spaces is louder than any diss track could ever be. A diss is an event. It drops, it charts, it fades in 3 weeks. Silence is a condition. Every week Cardi doesn't drop, BIA supporters are gonna spend their energy defending a woman who's already been publicly dismantled, fighting a war that ended before it started. The narrative solidifies. The clips replay on every anniversary. The "Your breath stink" line becomes a permanent tag on BIA's search results, her comment sections, her award show appearances, forever. 6 months from now, BIA is gonna be begging for that diss track, and I mean that literally, because at least a diss gives us something to respond to, something to rap over, a moment to hijack. Silence gives her nothing. Silence is a locked door. She's gonna look desperate screaming into a void that already moved on, and the void will not scream back. There's no comeback strategy for being ignored by the person who destroyed you. Path 2. The nuke actually drops. If Cardi does release that record from the vault, BIA is not ready, and I want to be precise about why. Let's be honest, Cardi already got a swing in on Am I the Drama? With Pretty and Petty. That was a warning shot, the appetizer, and it charted. If she's teasing a new one on top of that, a separate, dedicated, this one's personal record, that means she recorded something even more targeted, more specific, more surgical than what already made the album. Something with names. Something with dates. Something engineered in a studio to be unbearable to be on the receiving end of. And with Cardi's machine behind it, Atlantic, playlist placement, the TikTok rollout infrastructure, the fan base that treats releases like national holidays, that record is going to Billboard whether BIA responds or not. It will soundtrack gym sessions and wedding receptions while BIA's name is in the hook. That's the nightmare scenario. Your humiliation with a beat drop. BIA is not ready for what's coming if Belcalis takes this seriously. We saw what happened the last time rap beefs went nuclear in this era. Careers don't recover on schedule. They recover on apologies. And BIA already used her apology energy on somebody else. Path 3, the culture shift. Zoom way out. All the way out. 5 years from now, people are gonna look back at this August 2026 Spaces as the moment BIA's relevance ceiling was set in concrete, not by Cardi, but by arithmetic. Because here's the thing about the culture right now. Hip-hop's female landscape is exploding in a way it never has before. Sexy Red, Glorilla, Lato, Dokiai, and the next wave already loading behind them. Every one of those women is dropping records, selling tours, winning awards, and moving units. The lane is crowded and the lane is talented. And in the middle of that golden age, BIA is trending because of an X-post. Not a song. Not an album. Not a performance. A post. That's not a career. That's a cameo in somebody else's story. BIA is watching the culture move on without her in real time, and there's nothing she can do about it now, because she's forever attached, in every search result and every algorithm, to the woman who called her breath stink on a space with 1 million people listening. The algorithm never forgets. The algorithm is forever. The chess move nobody's talking about? Cardi might not even need to drop that nuke at all. She might just leak the hook. 6 seconds of it. On TikTok. Anonymously. Through some account with a cartoon avatar and no followers. And let the internet do the demolition for her. The duets, the stitches, the dance challenges. The wait is this about think pieces. That's the modern strategy and it's terrifying. You don't need a full record when the threat of a record can eat somebody's entire month. The threat is free. The threat doesn't miss. The threat charts in people's heads. Every artist BIA works with for the next year is gonna pull her aside and ask, yo, what's Cardi gonna say about this collab? Every feature negotiation just got a footnote. Every studio session has a shadow in the corner. That's poison in an industry that runs on features, and BIA poured it on herself with 2 words, all true. And the silent part, the part that never trends, the part that decides careers, is the industry itself. Labels watch these moments. Playlist curators watch. Brand deal executives with 8-figure marketing budgets watch. And BIA just made herself an insurance liability for the next 12 months, minimum. Any brand about to sign her is gonna hesitate in the boardroom, because the last thing a sneaker company or makeup line wants is their new face getting a Cardi B record dropped on her mid-campaign. The think pieces, the memes, the how could they partner with her quote tweets. That's the real damage of August 14th, 2026. Not the words. The words fade. The business is what's bleeding. Money is the only scoreboard the industry actually reads, and BIA's scoreboard just went dark. Whatever happens from here, the nuke, the silence, the hook leak, the slow fade, one thing's already clear, and it was clear within 48 hours of that stream. BIA lost this round the second she said everything I said was true. She just doesn't know it yet. The countdown started on August 14th, 2026. And somewhere in the vault, Belcalis Almanzo is holding the record that ends the conversation. Calm, patient, waiting for exactly the right moment. Like Churchill. So the question ain't if this gets uglier. It's when Cardi decides to press the button. And when that vault opens. We're gonna be the first ones breaking it down bar for bar, layer for layer, receipt for receipt. If you want the real coverage, no PR spin, no fake neutrality, no protecting industry favorites, smash that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and roll with Melanin Scope Media. Drop in the comments, is Cardi bluffing about that nuke, or is BIA about to catch the worst L of her career? Let's argue about it. And by the way, tomorrow we're dropping something wild about Offset's silence during all of this and why his camp is way more nervous than BIA's right now. You do not want to miss that.